The ignored warning Commander Zara Vex adjusted her position in the command chair of the NIGMA Starship Conquest, her 6 eyes scanning the holographic display that showed a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. After 18 months of surveying the outer spiral arm, her fleet had finally found something interesting. The planet showed signs of intelligent life, primitive by NIGMA standards, but intelligent nonetheless. Commander called out her communications officer, Lieutenant Kicksnail, his metallic voice echoing through the bridge. "We're receiving a transmission from the 3rd planet. It appears to be some kind of diplomatic message." Zara's mandibles clicked with amusement. In her 23 years of service to the NIGMA Empire, she had conquered 47 worlds. Not once had a primitive species attempted diplomacy before seeing the full might of their fleet. Most either cowered in fear or launched futile attacks. Diplomacy was reserved for equals, and there were no equals to the NIGMA Empire. "Display the message," she ordered, her voice carrying the authority of countless successful conquests. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human female with dark hair and kind eyes. She wore a simple blue suit and sat behind a wooden desk in what appeared to be an office. Behind her hung a flag with stars and stripes, and the woman's demeanor was surprisingly calm for someone who had just encountered an alien species. "Greetings." The human began, her voice steady and confident. "I am President Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation. We welcome you to our solar system and hope this first contact marks the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our peoples." Zara exchanged glances with her bridge crew. The human was speaking as if she represented an actual government, not a primitive tribe about to be absorbed into the empire. The audacity was almost refreshing. President Chen continued, "We understand that your empire has been expanding through this region of space. We respect your right to claim uninhabited systems, but we must inform you that Earth claims sovereignty over a sphere of influence extending 75 light-years from our home system. This includes all star systems within that radius." The bridge fell silent. 75 light-years was an enormous claim, larger than some of the Empire's most established sectors. Zara's tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Captain Rex Torres, began to laugh. Soon, the entire bridge crew was chuckling at the absurdity of it all. "We have no desire for conflict," President Chen said, seemingly oblivious to the laughter her words would cause. "However, we are prepared to defend our territory if necessary. We hope for peaceful coexistence and mutual respect between our civilizations. We await your response." The message ended with coordinates for a meeting location at the edge of the solar system. Zara stared at the empty screen, her amusement gradually replaced by something closer to disbelief. This primitive species had just claimed an area of space that included 17 established NIGMA colonies. "Communications, get me high command immediately," she ordered. "Priority Alpha transmission." Within minutes, the imposing figure of war, Marshal Keth Draken, appeared on the screen. His massive frame filled the display, his forearms crossed over his armored chest. Draken was a legend in the Empire, having personally led the conquest of over 200 worlds. His reputation for brutality was matched only by his strategic brilliance. "Report, Commander Vex." His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Marshal, we've received a diplomatic message from the inhabitants of this system. They're claiming sovereignty over a 75 light-year radius and requesting negotiations." Draken's eyes narrowed. "Negotiations? With primitives?" "Yes, sir. They seem to believe they can dictate terms to the Empire." For a moment Draken was silent. Then he began to laugh, a sound that chilled the blood of enemies across the galaxy. "Commander, forward me the complete message. I want the entire High Command to see this." 2 days later, Zara found herself in the Grand Strategy Chamber of the NIGMA homeworld, surrounded by the Empire's most powerful military leaders. The chamber was a monument to their conquests, with the flags of defeated worlds hanging from the ceiling like trophies. At the center sat the Supreme War Council, 12 of the most feared commanders in the galaxy. War Marshal Draken stood before a massive holographic display showing the human president's message. The assembled commanders watched in amazement as the primitive human made her ridiculous demands. "Gentlemen," Draken said as the message ended, "we have been presented with an opportunity. For too long, the Outer Rim species have been growing bold, questioning our authority. Some have even begun to resist our expansion. This human audacity gives us the perfect chance to send a message to the entire galaxy." General Vorth Kane, the Empire's chief strategist, leaned forward. "What are you proposing, Marshal?" "We make an example of them. We show every species in the galaxy what happens when primitives dare to challenge the NIGMA Empire. I want their entire solar system turned into a monument to our power." Admiral Nox Grimm, commander of the Empire's largest fleet, nodded approvingly. "How large a force should we assemble?" 500 ships, Draken declared. "I want every species within 100 light-years to see our fleet approaching. I want them to know that the NIGMA Empire does not negotiate with inferiors." Science Officer Dr. Elith Korin, the Empire's leading xenobiologist, raised a tentative hand. "Marshal, perhaps we should study them first. Their confidence suggests they might have capabilities we haven't detected." Draken's gaze fell on the scientist like a physical weight. "Dr. Korin, how many primitive species have you encountered that possessed hidden military capabilities?" "None, sir, but then why would these humans be different?" "Captain Torres, what do our scans reveal about their military capabilities?" Rex Torres activated his portable display. No orbital defense platforms, no visible space fleet, no energy shields around their planet. Their most advanced spacecraft appear to be using primitive chemical propulsion. Their weapons are kinetic and chemical-based. By our standards, they're several centuries behind us technologically. Drakon smiled, an expression that had preceded the destruction of countless worlds. "There you have it. These humans are no different from any other primitive species we've encountered. They have no idea what they're facing." Dr. Korin persisted. "But Marshal, the way their president spoke was the delusion of a primitive mind." Draken cut her off. "They have no concept of what real power looks like. When they see our fleet, they'll beg for mercy like all the others." The meeting continued for hours, with detailed plans being laid for what the Empire termed Operation Final Lesson. It would be a systematic demonstration of NIGMA power, broadcast across the galaxy to ensure that no other species would dare challenge the Empire's authority. As the weeks passed, word of the humans' audacious message spread throughout NIGMA space. In officer clubs and command centers, the story was told and retold, each telling adding new layers of mockery. The primitive humans who thought they could negotiate with the Empire became a running joke among the military class. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Chen stood in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by her top advisors. The room was filled with screens showing star charts, fleet movements, and intelligence reports from across the galaxy. "Madam President," said Defense Coordinator General Marcus Webb, "our deep space sensors are detecting massive fleet movements in NIGMA space. They're assembling what appears to be an invasion force." Chen nodded grimly. "How long do we have?" Based on their current rate of assembly and travel time, approximately 6 weeks. Secretary of State Dr. Angela Martinez leaned forward. Madam President, should we try to contact them again? Perhaps if we explain no, Chen said firmly. We gave them a clear warning. We offered peaceful coexistence. They've chosen to ignore our message and respond with force. Now we implement Protocol 7. General Webb activated a secure communication array. All stations, this is Defense Coordinator Webb. Authorization Zuli 77. Operation Shepherd's Watch is now active. Across the solar system, hidden installations began to power up. Deep space monitoring stations that had appeared to be simple research facilities revealed their true nature. Asteroid mining operations ceased their industrial work and began military preparations. On the far side of the moon, massive construction yards that had been building civilian spacecraft for decades suddenly shifted to military production. Dr. James Patterson, director of the Strategic Defense Initiative, approached the President. Madame President, are you certain about this course of action? Once we reveal our true capabilities, there's no going back. Chen looked at the tactical display showing the approaching NIGMA fleet. Dr. Patterson, humanity has been preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries. Ever since the Vega incident, we've known this day would come. We've built our defenses, trained our people, and prepared for exactly this scenario. The Vega incident had been humanity's first contact with hostile alien intelligence. A small colony ship had been destroyed by an unknown alien force in the Vega system. The few survivors who made it back to Earth brought word of a galaxy filled with predatory species. From that moment, humanity had begun preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The NIGMA Empire believes we're primitive, Chen continued. They think we're easy prey. They've made the same mistake that predators have made throughout history. They've confused our peaceful nature with weakness. General Webb received a communication through his earpiece. Madam President, Admiral Elena Vasquez reports that the Deep Space Defense Network is fully operational. All Guardian stations are ready and our allies. The Centauri Coalition is standing by. The Tau Ceti Republic has pledged their support. The Kepler Federation is moving their fleets into position. Chen smiled grimly. The NIGMA Empire had made one crucial error in their intelligence gathering. They had assumed that Earth was alone, that humanity was an isolated species with no allies. They had no idea that humans had been building relationships with other species for decades, forming a loose confederation of worlds that shared common values of freedom and self-determination. Very well, Chen said. Send one final message to the NIGMA fleet. Make it clear that this is their last chance to turn back. The message was prepared and transmitted toward the approaching NIGMA force. It was simple and direct to the NIGMA Empire fleet. You are approaching sovereign Earth space. This is your final warning. Turn back now or face the consequences of your actions. We do not wish to fight, but we will defend ourselves and our allies. The choice is yours. War Marshal Draken received the message aboard his flagship, the Inevitable. Victory, he was surrounded by his senior staff, all of whom had been briefing him on the final preparations for the invasion. The message played on the main screen, showing the same human president they had laughed at weeks earlier. Final warning, Draken mused. They're still trying to negotiate. He turned to his staff. Gentlemen, in 3 days we'll be in position. To begin the demonstration, I want the first bombardment to be visible across half the galaxy. These humans will learn what happens when primitives challenge the Empire. Captain Torres looked up from his sensor readings. Marshal, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures in the outer system. They might be natural phenomena, but Captain Draken interrupted. Are you seeing any actual threats? Any warships? Any weapons platforms? No, sir. Just some anomalous readings that don't match our database. Then continue with the mission. In 72 hours, we'll show the galaxy what happens to species that dare to challenge the NIGMA Empire. As the massive fleet continued its approach toward Earth, both sides prepared for a confrontation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The NIGMA Empire, confident in their technological superiority and military might, saw only an opportunity to make an example of an upstart species. Earth, drawing on centuries of preparation and the support of hidden allies, prepared to teach the galaxy's greatest predators a lesson they would never forget. The stage was set for a battle that would echo across the stars for generations too. Come, asterisk. The reckoning, the NIGMA fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a plague of metal locusts. 500 warships, each one a monument to the Empire's technological might, arranged themselves in the traditional conquest formation. At their head, War Marshal Draken's flagship Inevitable Victory cast a shadow that could be seen from several light minutes away. Admiral Knox, grim, stood on the bridge of his command vessel, Eternal Dominion, reviewing the tactical display. The solar system spread out before them, looking exactly as their intelligence had predicted. A small blue world, seemingly defenseless, orbited a yellow star. No orbital platforms, no visible fleet, no energy shields. It was almost anticlimactic. Admiral called out his tactical officer. We're in position for the demonstration bombardment. All ships report ready. Grim nodded. The plan was simple and brutal, as all NIGMA tactics were. They would destroy one of Earth's major cities as a demonstration of their power. The humans would surrender immediately, as primitives always did when faced with superior force. Then they would begin the systematic conquest of the system. Communications. Open a channel to the planet, Grim ordered. Let's give them one last chance to surrender before we begin the demonstration. The transmission was sent to Earth's apparent government center. Within minutes, a response came back. The same human president appeared on screen, but this time, she was not alone. Behind her stood a group of individuals in military uniforms, their faces calm and determined. Admiral Grim, President Chen said, her voice carrying none of the fear that the NIGMA commanders expected. I am President Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation. You have ignored our warnings and entered our space with hostile intent. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. Grim laughed, the sound echoing across the bridge. President Chen, I am Admiral Knox Grim of the NIGMA Empire. You are surrounded by 500 warships, each one capable of destroying your entire planet. Surrender now, and your people will be treated as subjects of the Empire. Resist, and we will demonstrate the futility of opposing us. The human president's expression didn't change. Admiral, you have made a grave mistake. We offered you peaceful coexistence. You chose war. Now you will learn why we asked you to stay away. The transmission ended. Grim stared at the empty screen, amazed by the humans' continued defiance. Even now, facing certain destruction, she maintained her composure. It was almost admirable, in a primitive sort of way. All ships, Grim announced across the fleet. Communication system, prepare for demonstration bombardment. Target the largest population center on the planet's night side. Let's show these humans what happens when primitives challenge the Empire. The NIGMA fleet powered up their weapons. Energy discharges crackling across their hulls like captured lightning. 500 ships prepared to unleash enough firepower to crack a small moon. Against a primitive world with no defenses, it would be like using a sledgehammer to crush an insect. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out suddenly, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. They're appearing everywhere." Grim spun to look at the tactical display. His blood went cold. Across the solar system, objects that had appeared to be asteroids, comets, and empty space were suddenly lighting up with energy signatures. Hundreds of them, scattered throughout the system in a perfect defensive grid. "What are those?" he demanded. "Unknown. Sir, the energy patterns don't match anything in our database. They appear to be some kind of defensive installations, but they're using technology we can't identify." Dr. Alith Koran's voice crackled over the communication system from the science. "Vessel analytical truth. Admiral, I'm reading quantum field fluctuations throughout the system. This isn't primitive technology. This is something we've never encountered before." Before Grim could respond, the space around the NIGMA fleet began to shimmer. Massive shapes began to materialize, appearing out of nowhere like ghosts becoming solid. They were ships, but unlike anything in the Empire's database. Sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to bend light around them. They were huge, each one dwarfing the largest NIGMA battleships. "Where did they come from?" Grim shouted. "Unknown, sir. They just appeared. No hyperspace signatures, no energy discharges. They were just suddenly there." The mysterious ships arranged themselves around the NIGMA fleet in a perfect formation. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls seeming to flow like liquid metal. There were dozens of them, each one a masterpiece of engineering that made the NIGMA vessels look crude by comparison. "Open fire," Grim ordered. "All ships, engage the enemy." The NIGMA fleet unleashed their full fury. Energy beams lanced through space, missiles streaked toward their targets, and kinetic projectiles accelerated to near light speed. It was enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The weapons reached their targets and simply stopped working. Energy beams dispersed harmlessly. Missiles lost power and drifted away. Kinetic projectiles slowed to a halt and fell toward the star. Not a single shot reached its intended target. "What happened?" Grim demanded. "All weapons have been neutralized." "Sir, our targeting systems are offline. Power levels are dropping across the fleet." Grim watched in horror as his ships began to lose power. One by one, engines shut down, shields collapsed, and weapons systems went dark. The mighty NIGMA fleet, the terror of the galaxy, was being systematically disabled without the enemy firing a single shot. A new voice came over the communication. "System, Admiral Grim, this is Admiral Alina Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. Your weapons have been disabled. Your ships are no longer a threat. Power down your remaining systems and prepare to be escorted out of our space." Grim looked at the tactical display, showing the face of a human woman with steel-gray hair and intelligent eyes. She wore a simple military uniform without excessive decoration, but there was something about her presence that commanded respect. "How are you doing this?" Grim asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Admiral, your empire has conquered over 200 worlds. You've destroyed countless civilizations. You've built your power on the assumption that might makes right. But you've made one crucial error. You've assumed that all species are as primitive as the ones you've previously encountered. Another ship appeared on the display, this one, clearly, not of human design. Its captain was a tall, elegant being with silver skin and multiple eyes. Admiral Grimm, I am Commander Silas Thorne of the Centauri Coalition. Your empire has been a plague on this galaxy for far too long. More ships appeared, each one representing a different species. The Tau Ceti Republic, the Kepler Federation, the Vega Alliance, the Proxima Confederacy, dozens of species, all united in their opposition to the NIGMA Empire. You see, Admiral, President Chen's voice came over the communication system while your empire has been conquering primitive worlds. We've been building alliances. We've been sharing technology, knowledge, and resources. We've been preparing for this moment. War, Marshal Draken's voice crackled over the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Marshal Draken, aboard the inevitable victory. We are not defeated. We are the NIGMA Empire. We do not surrender to primitives. Marshal Drakon. Admiral Vasquez replied calmly, you have a choice. You can accept escort out of our space, or you can be destroyed. Your weapons are offline. Your ships are powerless. Your fleet is at our mercy. Draken's response was a roar of rage. The Empire does not beg for mercy from inferiors. If you want to fight, then fight. But know that the Empire will return with 10 times this force. We will turn your world into glass. No, Marshal, said a new voice. You won't. The speaker was unlike any being the NIGMA forces had encountered. Tall and graceful, with features that seemed to shift between human and something else entirely. The being wore no uniform, but carried an authority that made even Draken pause. I am Keeper. Thol of the Guardians, the being said. For millennia, we have watched your empire spread across the galaxy like a cancer. We have seen you destroy countless civilizations, enslave entire species, and bring suffering to billions. We have tolerated your existence because we hoped you would eventually learn wisdom. Today, that tolerance ends. Guardianships began to appear throughout the system. They were ancient and powerful, their technology so advanced that it seemed like magic. They moved through space without visible propulsion, their hulls shimmering with energy that bent the laws of physics. Your empire ends today, Keeper Thol. Continued, your fleets are being disabled across the galaxy. Your homeworld is under quarantine. Your conquered worlds are being liberated. The age of NIGMA tyranny is over. Marshal Draken tried to maintain his composure, but his voice cracked with desperation. You cannot do this. We are the NIGMA Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, and now your 1,000 years of darkness are ending, President Chen said. The galaxy is changing, Marshal. The age of conquest is over. The age of cooperation is beginning. Admiral Grimm looked at his tactical display, showing the distribution of forces throughout the system. The NIGMA fleet was completely surrounded, outnumbered and outgunned. Their ships were powerless, their weapons useless, their situation hopeless. What do you want from us? He asked, quietly. We want you to go home, Admiral Vasquez replied. We want you to tell your people that the galaxy has changed. We want you to understand that there are consequences for aggression. Your empire will be confined to your original territory. Any attempt to expand will be met with united resistance. Dr. Elith Corin's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy buildups across the galaxy. Other NIGMA fleets are reporting similar encounters. It's happening everywhere. The realization hit Grimm like a physical blow. This wasn't just about Earth. This was a coordinated action across the entire galaxy. The Empire wasn't just losing one battle, they were losing the war. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. "Since the Vega incident," President Chen replied. 237 years ago, your empire destroyed a human colony ship. The survivors brought word of your existence back to Earth. From that moment, we began preparing. We reached out to other species. We built alliances. We shared technology. We prepared for this day. "But your planet," Grimm said desperately. "Our scans showed no defenses." "Your scans showed what we wanted them to show," Admiral Vasquez said. "Every asteroid, every comet, every piece of space debris in our system has been converted into a defense platform. We've been building for over 2 centuries. Marshal, we've been ready for you." Commander Silas Thorne of the Centauri Coalition added, "Your empire made the same mistake that all predators make. You assumed that your prey would remain prey forever. You never considered that they might grow stronger, smarter, and more united than you." The NIGMA fleet began to move, not under their own power, but pushed by invisible forces. The Allied ships escorted them toward the edge of the system like shepherds guiding wolves away from the flock. "This isn't over," Marshal Draken transmitted. "The Empire will not accept this humiliation." "The Empire will accept it," Keeper Thor replied, "because the Empire has no choice. Your fleets are disabled. Your homeworld is blockaded. Your conquests are being liberated. You can adapt to the new reality, or you can be destroyed. Those are your only options." As the NIGMA fleet was escorted out of the system, Admiral Grimm looked back at the small blue world that had just humbled the galaxies. Greatest empire. Earth continued to orbit its star, looking as peaceful and innocent as it had when they first arrived. But now he knew the truth. That innocent-looking world was home to a species that had turned the entire galaxy against his empire. The journey back to NIGMA space was a nightmare of shame and confusion. News of the defeat spread faster than the returning fleet, carried by quantum communication networks that the Empire had never known existed. Conquered worlds began to rebel. Allied species declared independence. The Empire's grip on the galaxy was crumbling. When the survivors finally reached the NIGMA homeworld, they found it surrounded by guardian ships. The Emperor himself appeared on the communication screen, his 4 eyes filled with defeat. "Admiral Grimm," the Emperor said quietly, "report." "Your Majesty," Grimm replied, "we have discovered that we are not alone in the universe. We have learned that there are forces greater than the Empire. We have learned that the galaxy has changed, and we must change with it." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. "And if we refuse to change, then we will be destroyed, Your Majesty. Not by primitive weapons or superior numbers, but by the united will of every species we have ever wronged. The galaxy has awakened, and it remembers our crimes." The NIGMA Empire, which had once ruled a quarter of the galaxy, was reduced to a single star system. Their fleets were dismantled, their weapons destroyed, their conquered worlds liberated. The survivors were left to contemplate the consequences of their arrogance. On Earth, President Chen stood in the same office where she had first delivered humanity's warning to the Empire. The wooden desk was the same, the flag still hung in the background, but everything else had changed. The galaxy was free, and a new age of cooperation had begun. "Madam President," General Webb said, "the last NIGMA fleet has been escorted out of our space. The immediate threat is over." Chen nodded, but her expression remained serious. The immediate threat, yes. But now comes the harder task. We must help build a galaxy where this never happens again. We must ensure that no species ever again grows so powerful that it believes it can dominate all others. Admiral Vasquez appeared. On the communication screen, Madam President, the Galactic Council is requesting Earth's participation in the new governance structure. They want us to help establish the rules for this new age. Chen smiled. Then we'll do what we've always done, Admiral. We'll build something better than what came before. The NIGMA Empire had laughed at Earth's warning. They had dismissed humanity as primitive and weak. They had learned, too late, that the galaxy's greatest strength was not in conquest but in cooperation. The age of empires was ending, and the age of unity was beginning. And it had all started with a simple message. We do not wish to fight, but we will defend ourselves. If necessary, the galaxy had learned to listen.